just very quickly then, I've known Marius's poetry for quite a long time. I don't think we've ever met personally. I like what he does, and we have something in common because lately I've been writing poems about the outside world, the external world, particularly nature, and posting them on YouTube. So I really enjoyed Marius's work. I like the link between the image and the text, which I find very interesting. And I'm very glad he's here to share his poetry with us today. Marius.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you, thank you. Thank you for that introduction, Emmanuel. I feel quite touched. So I've got a whole variety of poems to read to you this evening. And obviously, if you have any questions after I've read, please ask away and I'll do my best to answer them. This first one, I mean, I didn't actually start writing poetry properly till about 2016. Well, I've always been interested in it. And this came about, I was supporting a friend who was going through a very unpleasant divorce. She was living in Dublin, and I used to visit quite often. And we were out walking one day. It was not a very nice day in about February. It was sleet and rain coming down, but the dog needed walking, and we bought my friend's daughter off with the notion of an ice cream, except unfortunately the ice cream parlor was at one end of the seafront and the dog walking area was for the other, and we had to walk the dog first, so she was getting more and more fractious till eventually she stopped dead. I heard her say, "I can't go any further, I've got jelly legs." And I went, "Jelly legs?" And she looked at me and went, "Chilly legs, don't be stupid." And I thought, oh, told off by a 4-year-old again. But the next day, this little voice with an Irish accent started going in my head, and this poem just sort of arrived. So I wrote it down quickly, and it just sort of went on from there. So anyway, so this is sort of like my official launch into poetry poem. It's called Maya Goes for a Walk. "Jelly legs," you shrieked into the wind that had whipped your nose and cheeks radish red. "I've got jelly legs," knock-kneed, refusing to walk, frown face framed tight by the blue hood of your anorak. "My legs are jelly," your nearly 5-year-old outrage at adults making you walk, willful unfairness. You were soothed by whipped white ice cream in a cone on a freezing January day. So that was Maya, and she really did tell me off. Right, this next one, as you said, Emmanuel, oh, and hello to Susilawati. Oh, well. As you said, Emmanuel, I do have a variety of styles, and it's because I like to play around with form, and of course, because I'm fairly new to it, I wanted to investigate different forms of poetry. And this one is an Algerian form called an asfru, which has similar characteristics to haiku, but it's not a haiku, but certain lines are certain lengths of syllables, and certain lines rhyme with each other backwards and forwards through the poem. It's very often a song. They very often said this is very a song form. I think that's probably the right word. And it's called Dead Tree. 3 springs I came to Dead Tree. Silence speaks to me. No buds to burst, emerald greens. Bone branch against slab grey sky. Winds blast wood, bone dry. Brittle boughs break as winds keen. 3 springs more it will not be when I come to see. The dead tree grows in my dreams. 6 more springs I will not be. I'll lay with dead tree, asleep under cloth of green. Thank you, thank you. Right. Now, any of you who've seen the little introduction on Facebook will have heard this one, but I thought I'd do it anyway. This is called Ironing Shirts. A pile of summer shirts, ready to file away. I'll discover them again next year. Pretend they're new. On the board, a pattern of flowers, tropical, holiday bright, ready for the iron's hot hiss. Pressed and folded, summer sleeps in a drawer. Somebody asked me a question, I'm going to run out of poems. Okay, right, this next one. Bristol, where I live, has a very big spoken word scene, apparently the biggest outside of London. Before lockdown, you could go to open mic night or something similar almost every night of the week if you wanted to, and some people do. And I've been going to one quite regularly till lockdown happened, called Satellite of Love, which is where I first read to an audience, which was not too nerve-wracking, but it was I was a little bit nervous, but and this is the poem I read, and it's one of the first poems I got published. It's just, excuse me, I'm going to just have a glass of a sip of water because my throat's getting dry. Right, okay. And there's a story behind this. I used to see on the bus destination boards in the early 1980s when I arrived in Bristol, there used to be this destination called Shadow Factory. And I always used to sort of be slightly bemused by what it meant, what it was about. And I wasn't quite sure if I was misremembering, but anyway, I decided to write a poem about it. And it's called A Single to the Shadow Factory, Please. I used to see it on the front of buses, destination, Shadow Factory, and imagined men and women who, with skill and delicate tools, rolled out shadows thinner than paper, stored them in light, tight tubes, ready to attach to people who made no mark, had no doppelganger, that followed their moves, that they could use to cast rabbit heads on white walls. The buses don't go there anymore. The Shadow Factory has gone. But it makes me uneasy to think of unused shadows waiting to dog our heels. Now, as I said, I wasn't sure if I misremembered this thing on the front of buses. So I did a little bit of research. And what it was, they did actually exist, and they were all over the country. And it started in the 1930s as a government initiative because they realized, unfortunately, war was coming again. And so what they would do is they say, okay, that factory there is making aero engines. And that factory just 2 or 3 miles down the road is making lawnmowers, but they've got the same machine tools. So they would make a shadow factory in the lawnmower place, which would make the engine parts. So if the main facility got bombed, they could still carry on production. And these were built all over the country. And I mean, Rover actually made tunnels into hills and buried factories in there. So I wasn't misremembering it. And then funnily enough, a fellow poet in Bristol published a collection called The Shadow Factory. So we've had a correspondence about that. So they did actually exist. So there we go. But yeah, anyway. Right. Okay, how are we doing? Oh, that's good. Right, this next one is a Dublin poem again. This friend of mine, there was a Tesco's supermarket just up the road, which I used to go to quite often. On the way back, I noticed this man walking down the road, and there was something about him that started things going in my head. And I wrote this one. It's called On the Way Home from Tesco. A grey slouch of a man, joint smoke leaks out of his cupped hand, makes his way home along Lower Mounttown Road, tracksuit bottom, hoodie top, headphones clamped, world shut out or in. Passes bungalows crouched low behind floral borders, high-walled, dead-eyed houses that lurk in dark trees. Tucked under his arm, a box of cakes, toilet rolls. Ahead of him, the grey, stone-cold church on the corner offers Eucharistic adoration on Tuesday afternoons. On Sundays, lace-capped old ladies nod off in the Latin Mass, dream of an altar-rail tipple to ease the sharp pain, the fish-hook guilt stuck in their throats. But their ancient bones know sin is purged by cooking sherry, the analgesic of choice to a respectable lady of certain years. He takes a toke. Right. Right. Now this next one, visited friends in Australia a few years back, Western Australia. They live in Perth, and went on a road trip around a very small part of Western Australia because it is vast. And I don't know if any of you have experienced this, but you visit a foreign country and you drive from one town to the next town to the next city, and I sort of think, I'm not actually really seeing Australia. I'm seeing a road and I'm seeing a town, but I'm not actually really experiencing this very different land. However, when the kangaroo jumped out of the bush into the middle of the road about 50 feet from the car, I suddenly felt like I was really seeing Australia. It was like, feet on the brakes. Fortunately, I can say that no kangaroo was harmed in the writing of this poem. And I have to concentrate on this one because it's got quite a definite rhythm to it, and some alliteration which is quite hard to get right, and I've only got myself to blame for that. So we're traveling to a place called Pemberton, which is just like one strip of a high street, 2 bars and a Best Western hotel, very much like something out of the 1950s. So it was just a stopover point because it was just a bit too far to go to the next big place we're going to. So this is called Journey to Pemberton, Western Australia. And I just got to get my head in for the rhythm. Scaled back, tarmac black, sliding snake across orange earth, a rushing road, furrowed and folded over secrets held in bush heat shimmer, dry leaf rustle, king skink scuttles over sloughed snake skin as song-swearing crows throw to each other a falling cadence of calls. Shadows grow long, kangaroo bounds from time out of time, springs on the back of black road snake, now in our time, now in danger, then kangaroo leaps back into every when. Small town clings to black road snake, on the pavement woman airs a grievance into her mobile, shouts her reasons and paces the street that binds ancient carriage trees behind concrete. Truck roars by, her signal drops. Bird in tree sings, plaintive bell calls. Song out of dream time to the black tarmac road. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you very much. That's quite a hard one to read. Right. Now, this next one is another asfru, the Algerian song form. And I can't for the life of me remember why I started writing it, but I did, so we'll just get into it. It's called Murmurs. The wind ripples through ripe wheat. Stem and scythe will meet. Kiss sharp blade and silent fall. Treasure dreams, keep them close by, to colour grey sky. Kiss sharp blade, the harvest calls. Wind and wheat whisper all day. What words do they say? Treasure dreams, the sharp blade falls. Yes, I think it's very much seize the day. And sorry, I'm just going to have another sip of water. I'm disappearing off the screen because I'm at my computer table and I don't allow fluids on it, just in case I swamp my keyboard or any of the hard drives I've got down below. Oh, that's better. Again, if you want to ask me anything or make a comment, please do. Right, this next one. A few years back, I was working in the South Wales valleys in an ex-mining area. And there was a real sense of something lost, something gone, which obviously is the coal industry and generally industry within South Wales. And a friend I was working with who knows I write poetry and likes poetry challenged me to write a poem about the area. So I did. And I think I might have been channeling Dylan Thomas a bit, but I promise I won't try and put on a Welsh accent. That would just be too embarrassing. It's called Valley Song. Well, I better explain, a coal wash is a structure where when coal's first out of the ground, it has to be washed because it's all full of all sorts of junk that you can't use on a fire or in a furnace. So that, I used to drive past this huge reinforced circular structure, which was an old coal wash, which for some reason had never been pulled down. So anyway, Valley Song. The derelict coal wash stands by the road. A shaft drops deep to the silent dead mine. The unworked seams of coal black load strand small valley towns in backwater time. The streets are quiet, like someone has died. Small shops trade slow on the square. Church and chapel have room inside. God is busy elsewhere. Rusting mementos, the shovels, the drills. Rivers once black run clean and clear. Cutthroat winds raise the dark-browed hills. Steel-shuttered pubs serve no one stale beer. Corroded memories of industrial might, but stuttered and staggered into starless night. We've packed up and buried under prim lawns of green, left the future to fade in fitful dreams. Thank you. Not quite a sonnet, but sort of going in that direction. Right. Now this is actually quite a short one, and it's actually one of the ones that's been set to music. It's just one verse, but it's actually quite nice, and the setting he's done is very beautiful. So actually, when the CD is recorded properly, I mean, I can't do anything at the moment, I will let you all know. Believe you me, I will. Might be able to get it so you can download it. Anyway, this is sort of a bit about my mother in a way. She was a great gardener. She introduced me and my sister as soon as she thought either of us could handle a trowel. We were given a flower bed, so that's why I garden now, and so was my sister. And she was always trying out different things and ordering seeds from all over the place. So, so this is, yeah, it's a bit about her, I guess. It's called Seed Order. She picks the posted package from the mat. Along the envelope, her fingers thrill to feel the colours of perfect flowers. She smiles, tips the padded sack, hears the rainstick rustle from inside, each seed a tiny bead of waiting life. She holds the summer in her hand. Yeah, good old mum. Right. Gosh, how long have we been going now? Oh, blimey. I better get a move on. I'm going to run out of time. This next one, It's an oddity. I quite often find when I'm just doing something else, like ironing, that words start coming into the brain. And I was I was putting a submission together to a journal, and I sort of was considering, no, I won't send it. It's too weird. And funnily enough, that was one of the ones they took. It's always the way, isn't it? It was around the time of the height of the really acrimonious debates around Brexit and all that stuff. So it is very much around that area. It's called Taking Control. I don't want to sleep anymore. I've had enough of this penny in the slot machine mentality. I want the full-size rug in front of my desk, 2 rich tea biscuits with my morning cuppa. No bowler-hatted schismatic going to rule over my wasteland. I'll lord over it, from the mouse-hole skirting to the dirt-streaked window, with a rod of fire, by God, if I can find the meter money. No snigger down the sleeve merchant, interloper from foreign parts will hold sway round here. The bard can bugger off with his sceptres and silver seas. Every door will be an exit. Shove out the old thinkers, the unbelly feelers. I'll pump up the navy, bail out the boat, drown other opinions in a bucket of bilge water. I'll stiffen all lips, whistle up hope from some dark corner, sail off to an imperial march. There'll be no sunset on this hope and glory land when I slam the door shut, tight as a drum. Yeah, I'll just explain, I am not a fan of Brexit. I am not a fan of Brexit. I think it's a disaster, but hey-ho. Right, okay, I was going to do that one, but I'm actually change of plan here, thanks to Emmanuel, who read the poem with the favourite word in. This is actually from the book. It's called San Sebastian because it was in San Sebastian that the idea came. I was walking with a very old friend who's an extremely well-read person, and we were on a very high hill above the sea, and I said, oh, listen to the susurration of the waves. And he looked at me and said, susurration? What does that mean? So I thought, I'll write a poem that defines it. San Sebastian. Susurration, murmur. In the early morning half-sleep time, you murmured in my ear. I pulled you close, we slept, each in the dreams of the other. Susurration, whisper. You whispered your words, made me blush, made my blood warm. Susurration, sigh. Swift turns in the bed sheets, 2 tongues entwined. Susurration, a murmur, a whisper, a sigh. A gentle sea kisses the shore. Yeah, it was fun to write that. And I need another sip of water. Excuse me a second. It's quite dry and hot in this room. But I have to keep the window shut because the road's right outside. Now, this next one, every year there's a National Poetry Writing Month, and every day of that month you're given a prompt to write a poem. And I can't remember exactly what the prompt was. It was something about being a ghost. I think that was it. And so I sort of wrote a manual about how to become a ghost, or at least the characteristics of ghosts that you would have to be a ghost. Anyway, it's called A Proper Spook. You have to learn to walk like a ghost, not passing through walls, that's advanced. Find yourself a haunted house. Spend a night at full moon in a shivery bed, surrounded by shadows. Watch for ghosts. How do they walk? Glide or shamble? Fast or slow? They might float. Could you do that? Do they wear gowns billowed with shadows? Or are they naked, draped in chains? All this you need to know. When you're ghost perfect, One last thing. How will you become a ghost? I think Bapak said that if you spent too much time thinking about ghosts, you're liable to end up as one. So I don't too often. All right. This is another Dublin poem. My friend had a very bad time and I had to go over very, very suddenly to give her some support, and I had to leave on a very early morning flight. So we said goodnight and went to our respective rooms, and I left before she got up in the morning. So this is called Journey Home. Sorry, I'm just taking another sip of water. Typical, the throat packs up when you're reading. That's better, right. Journey home. Strange this leave taking. Dead hour before dawn, the house asleep. Last night a final hug, then closing bedroom doors. Wide as the Irish Sea and as cold the landing that separated us. I pad around the kitchen making tea, the cats on their bed watchful. No bark from the dog as the gate slides open, off duty for once. I carried my case down to the road, blow a kiss to your dark window as I pass. Imagine you asleep then, put the wheels to the pavement. Strange this leave taking, no kisses, no tears. The case wheels thrum a broken rhythm, pavement blues from patched concrete. A fallen leaf catches underneath, scrapes a single dry note. Waiting for the bus at the Royal Marine Hotel, cheesy jazz echoes from somewhere. Heavy-eyed, I scratch down these words, then, still clinging to scraps of sleep, I doze. Dublin, a dark mystery, slides by the coach. And I actually pretty much wrote that whilst I was waiting for the bus at the Royal Marine Hotel, and I was very, very tired. And of course, then we got to the airport, and the plane got later and later, and we got bussed out to the plane, and we waited in the bus, and then we got bussed back to the airport, and it turned out that somebody couldn't get out of the plane who'd arrived from the UK. They'd managed to get into the plane, but I think they were disabled, and they couldn't get them out of the plane. So, oh God. Right, this next one, it's in the SICA book of poetry, which is called, I can't remember. Emmanuel, can you, what's the SICA book of poetry called? Yes, the Just Human one. Yeah. Anyway, it's called Border Wars. Supple, long strangler's hands slide out from winter weight under the bay tree, go about their work, subtle sneaks. No border bruiser, drag-knuckled brute, bloated from rasp-jawed chew of leaf and stem, thick with cold slime, no. Deft, they twine, a twisted love embrace, penetrate, smother, subvert, colonize, climb. Mound over rose bush, currant bush, raspberry bush, and then blaze on white trumpets, bindweed rules. And if you're a gardener, you know what bindweed is. It's terrible stuff, and I've got some in the garden, which is actually in the bay hedge at the moment, and quite difficult to get rid of. Right.
One more.
One more? Oh, am I running
more.
out of time? Okay.
Yep.
Okay, right. Let me just... not that one. Okay, I'm going to read you. This is one about my grandmother. My father died back in 2011. We had all his home movies transferred to DVD, and it was quite a moment when I hadn't seen my grandmother who lived with us. His mother lived with us till I was 11. She died, and I saw her again moving around, which was for the first time in about 40 years, and it started this off. Light chemicals, alchemy, burnt my grandmother onto a narrow film strip, stole a few seconds of her life, made Violet Clara Ashpole a movie star on my screen. She sang musical songs to me and my sister. Little Dolly Daydream, Pride of Idaho, She's My Lady Love, My Little Turtle Dove. I can sing them still. Gran was in service all her life. Skivvy, maid, wife, mother, grandmother. At 80, she still cleaned. Her old mop bashed the skirting boards, chipped Dad's paintwork. When her mop was taken away, she tied dusters to her slippers, did a soft shoe shuffle to polish the floor. Tuneless songs hummed under her breath, memories of her musical days. Every afternoon, Gran changed, put on her best dress, salmon pink swirls on black, necklace of grey white stones, white hair pinned in neat curls, ready for tea guests. They never came. She would take a razor blade, slice off painful corns. My sister and I watched fascinated, crimson blood welled, dabbed away with tissues. She had her superstitions. Never wear green. Cover mirrors in a thunderstorm. Never open umbrellas indoors. She was advised when pregnant to take gunpowder to blow the baby out. She married my grandfather instead. Her fear of green was unfounded. Red did for her. Not crimson cut toe blood, a dark red. Her secret shame in the chamber pot. Her secret fear flushed away each morning. She operated on her underwear, cut out the bloodstains, stitched up the wounded fabric, carried on. Cancer was not to be spoken of. Say the word, invite it in. I last saw her in a hospital bed, white hair still curled, face shrunk, eyelids heavy. Later I saw my father's eyes, red with tears, mine too. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
That was great fun.
That was
I hope
lovely.
I hope that last one wasn't too much of a downer.
That's really nice.
Thank you.
The last one was full of love.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes, yes.
One can only hope to be remembered that way.
Yes, I think that's a good, yes, yeah, good point, good point. Well, thank you very much for listening, everybody. It's been a real honour.
I very much enjoyed your reading.
Thank you, thank you.
Really did.
My
favourite was the one about the guy with the dope smoke in his palmed hand.
Oh yes, 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 yes. That was written in the bar across the road from my friend's house. Some of it, anyway. Oh, wow. Well,
They were all
great. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Very
evocative. I found it also interesting, the stories behind Marius, and I thought it sounds like that situation of your life are inspired you to write something.
Well,
such, right?
Yeah. I mean, I think that's very true, and in particularly the Dublin stuff, because it was a real finding I could write poems about what was that real safety valve, because there was some very dark stuff going on. I won't go into any detail, but of course it didn't stop; it just kept on going. And so you, Emmanuel, encouraged me to. I think you said something like, "You found your voice. God be praised." and encouraged me to submit stuff, and I have actually now been published. So, and I am still submitting stuff. So, everything here is either been published or is in the book. So I'm very happy about it being put on the web for people to look at later who couldn't get here because they're in Australia or whether. Hello, Cecilia Butty, you want to say something?
Yes, I appreciate the details, the small details. Well, the best example is the most recent one, I think, regarding your grandmother. Yeah, but also the Australian one where the kangaroo come. And so those details are really, really important to me when I'm hearing a poet read. And I know there isn't, in the broader world, there isn't so much patience to hear details. So this is why I love this.
Thank you, thank you. Well, I mean, I think you can only really write about what you experienced. I mean, all that stuff with my grandmother, I mean, it was just, that actually just flowed out. It really didn't get very much editing, but it was all stuff I remember from a child, you know, when I was 8 or 9. And it just stayed with me. And just seeing her, few shots of her around the house shuffling about, and we actually have that footage of her with the dusters on her feet polishing the floor, doing this funny little dance. So yeah, so all those details, you know, all stuff that happened.
With the Welsh one, Marius, what you described, is that the tip, like the one that had that big disaster in Wales?
No, not Aberfan. No. I don't think where I was, near Pontypool, near a place called Blackwood. Aberfan, I think, is further north. The coal wash itself is a big reinforced concrete structure. It's not a tip.
Oh, okay. It's a different.
So they put the coal that's come out of the mine in, and they blast water through it to get all the stones and other stuff out. So yeah, I mean, there are still tips around, and you can tell sometimes because they have a sort of conical shape to them, and they look like a hill because they're all grassed over now. No, the Aberfan was an absolute horrific event. What I was doing in Wales, I was working on a TV show which was taking music of a particular year and then marrying that up with archive from the ITV Wales archive. And we actually did cover Aberfan, and I tell you, I actually had to leave the room several times because it was so upsetting. And even after that town was engulfed in that disaster, the coal board refused to remove the tips. You know, that had caused this and killed all those children. So, you know, it was quite extraordinary, and very moving.
When you say you were working on a TV show, was it?
Yep.
What aspect of the production do you do?
I'm an editor. I sit there and stitch the pictures and the words together to tell the story.
The story, okay. Because one of my COVID-19 isolation finds has been Foley Artists Group.
Oh yes. I know what the Foley
who
artist
makes
is.
the sound.
That's right.
And because I used to be a negative cutter, I was in the local union.
Okay. Yeah,
so they let me into the group, and there's fabulous seminars with people who made, you know, the sound for The Day the Earth Stood Still, or The Hunt for Red October, or whatever. So maybe you can look them up. They have an active Facebook group called Foley Artist, but there's a lot of film history there if you're interested.
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, I don't do so much editing these days, although I seem to have got into a niche of poetry films.
Well, it's lovely.
Which is a whole nother story. I'm working with a friend called Caleb, who's a poet here in Bristol, and we're making a film at the moment. We just got one out on the Poetry Film Live website. I think that's what it is. I'll post a link at some point.
Yes, Marius, we can put the link under the YouTube film.
Okay, well,
also, can you show us your book again, where you have written about it? Can you hold it?
Is that right?
Yeah, we can't see it. There's a reflection a little bit closer. Oh, no, it's gone. It's invisible. No, we can't see it because of your background. It's so funny. You have to show it in front of your body because.
Oh, I see. How's that?
Yeah,
that's under the surface.
Under the surface, okay.
Yeah, that's photos and poetry. Well, what an evening.
Do moving images with poetry as well?
Yes, that's a poetry film, yes. This is what happened was, I saw my friend Caleb just before lockdown, and we discussed making a film. He's already done a poetry film. We discussed making another one, and we said, well, look, if lockdown happens, we can do this remotely through the internet. So that's what we did. So suddenly we all had a lot of time, and so I just got stuck into it, and I've got editing software here on my computer, and we put the movie together for a mini digital poetry festival called Sheath, which it was screened at, and we've got another one on the go at the moment, which I can't say too much about, but it's very different to the one we just made. And again, we're working remotely. I actually haven't seen Caleb other than Zoom and through Messenger for 3 months. It's very strange, but it seems to work.
Cool.
And the good thing about the one we did called Garden is because it's set in a garden, we didn't have to go out anywhere to get any footage. We just used some archive we found on the web and shot stuff in our gardens.
And that's the one that you'll post a link to?
That's right, yes, I will.
And we can put it on the SICA YouTube channel. The one
SICA YouTube channel. I better note all this down.
Yeah, I can send you a link. I can send
Please
you
do.
an email. Get this.
And I'll get the details of the book up as well.
Yes.
Book details.
I'd like to make a quick announcement.
Yes.
And it was inspired by Mardia's comment about music and poetry. When I was living in the Bay Area, I met a composer who said he wanted to work with me and set some of my poems to music. So I sent him 3 of my poems about war. And he liked them, worked on them, scored them, and and I went to rehearsals with a San Francisco orchestra, and finally we performed them in a big church in San Francisco. Hundreds of people. For me, it was a peak. It was the peak of my life as a performance poet, with this orchestra behind me and a conductor and the composer sitting in the front row. And it is called Front Line, and it is on YouTube. Front Line, and it's on YouTube because a friend of mine was there in the audience and filmed, and you might enjoy it. 3 poems about wars set to music. That's my announcement.
I shall look it up.
And I have one. I want to do one riddle. One riddle.
Okay, go.
The answer has already been written about in a poem which this guy read. So there's a clue. Why walk or run when you can hop it? I keep the future in my pocket. What am I?
Say it again.
Why walk? What?
Say it again.
Why walk or run when you can hop it? I keep the future in my pocket.
You're a kangaroo.
Yes.
Wow. That was quick.
Oh gosh, a marsupial moment.
Thank you, Marty. I think it's time for me to leave. I have lots to do. I'd like to say a big thank you to Marius for a wonderful reading.
Thank you. It's been a
Thank
pleasure.
you.
Thank you.
And